everyone. Trita here. Try to get settled. So, Wayne's was so much fun today, and I can't wait to get back into the Alchemy book because I think for whatever reason we're right on track to find out exactly what we need to do to support the energies that we're coming into very shortly with this solstice and eclipse, and there's just a new moon. There's just so much going on. And then there's so much energy on the world that's happening right now. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate it more than you know. And we were going to start with what alchemy can mean to a decaying world. And this is chapter 8. The moon rules the night side of life, and it is the lesser light, the reflective light of the solar energy of God. Wow. The moon rules the night side of life, and it is the lesser light, the reflective light of the solar energy of God. In its reflective state, it exerts enormous control over the tides and over the water element. Luna, the moon, the great whirling satellite that rules the night, governs in part, then, the emotional body of man, and can easily become either his greatest enemy or his best friend. For when properly harnessed, the energies of the moon, being put under his feet, can help him to achieve alchemical control over his emotions, over his energy in motion. Let us see how this is so. The moon affects the astral body of Earth. When dealing with the moon, then, we deal with the reflected light of the sun. When the astral body is under the dominion of the Christ, its power becomes limitless. When it is purified, energies are magnified in turn by the moon, which is nothing more than a giant reflector. Their power is multiplied in almost infinite proportion. But until such a time as the mass consciousness is ruled by the light of the sun, instead of being ruled by the night, the moon will reflect the astral effluvia of the planet. Thus, men will continue to be the victims of their own horrendous miscreations, and that to an ever greater degree during the cycle of the full moon. Now the alchemist uses his purified consciousness as a reflector of solar energies, much like the moon reflects the light of the sun. The waters of his mind reflect the light of the day and the night, even as the waters of the sea reflect the golden pathway of both the sun and the moon. But the Christ consciousness, the prism of purity, like the sea of glass, it filters out the impurities of the moon, even as it refracts in the light of the sun. All energy being God's energy, the humanly misqualified energies reflecting by the moon sent back to the earth from whence they came, according to karmic law, may be freed from the impositions of the carnal mind through the process of transmutation. They must then be used to create, in the tradition of the great alchemist, more perfect works of art, until the patterns in the heavens transform the patterns in the earth, and the moon becomes a golden orb of rarefied power. Wow. The moon would turn to gold. Instead of silver, it would become gold. Oh, that is very interesting. Confirmation. Oh, that's so crazy. Okay. Okay, I lost my place. Okay, the full moon. Okay, refracts. Okay. All of energy being God's energy, the great alchemist. The moon becomes a golden orb of verified power. Most of you know only too well that when your emotions become disturbed over outer conditions, feelings, or concepts, there is a moment when you are yet able to wrest control of your energies from your own emotional body. Subsequently, if these energies are permitted to continue to rage unabated, that moment of out of control is lost. And then it is easy for people to do, to think, or to say that which they will only one day regret. Yeah. Conversely, most of you are aware of the great joy and peace that has come to your souls when you have been able to accomplish something for someone else. This happens because deep within yourself, there is a loving desire to serve your fellow man. This desire is what prompted the descent of the Christ, the Son of David, in his role as the Messiah of old, the Shepherd King, a man after God's own heart, communed with God and prepared himself for greater service. As he tended his sheep, nowhere was the luster of his soul more apparent than in the beauty of his meditations upon the Spirit of the Lord recorded in the book of Psalms. One of the most skillful ways in which he tired. One of the most skillful ways in which he tired businessman or executive, the frustrated mother or wife, the confused young man or woman can find integration and wholeness for themselves is to develop the discipline of being able to direct their emotions to do for them exactly what they want. Such discipline will completely change their outlook. For then they will then face life's journey with joyous expectancy, not with dissatisfaction. For example, if it is love for another that you would express, then you must always guard against that love which is selfish, which would exact from your beloved the expectations of your own mind and heart without ever understanding the givedness of love. In order to love as God loves you, you must first give freedom to all parts of life, including yourself. And then you must place your trust, as does a nestling bird, in the heart of God, in the heart of goodness and mercy. Having given all, you will then receive the most joyful, eternal gifts from God that you could ever imagine, and some even beyond that which you could imagine. These will come not only through the chalice of your own heart, but also through the hearts of your compeers. If then you would truly love, you must learn to discipline the base emotions of selfishness, envy, jealousy, resentment, stubbornness, and ingratitude. We urge, therefore, at this juncture in our alchemical study, that the control of the emotions be considered. For the emotions will play a very important role in the creative cloud action which we are considering and out of which we are functioning. The only way to truly be happy is to give oneself totally to the universe and to God, which is a consciousness of cooperation. God, the return gift of one's real self. The only way to be truly happy is to give oneself totally to the universe and to God, at the same time being aware of and expecting from God the return gifts of one's real self. One of the greatest dangers in religion and the quest has been brought about by men that have given themselves to God, thinking that was all they had to do, not understanding the responsibility of free will. They acted them as a part of the nebulous ninny, having no will of their own. They would flip and flop back and forth, blow by every wind, obsessed with what we will call the law of uncertainty. For if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to battle? Men should understand that although their surrender to God be complete, following surrender, they must wait for the fiat of bestowal that is pronounced by the God presence as a restatement of the blessing given by God at birth of his offspring. Thou art my beloved Son. This day have I begotten thee. This takes place when one has relinquished the control of his 4 lower bodies to his Christ self, thus enabling his true self, the Christ, to obey the fiat, to take dominion over the earth being one's own footstool kingdom of the 4 lower bodies. Remember that even Jesus Christ came to the moment of his anointing. The Holy Spirit descended, and the voice of God renewed the ancient covenant. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. This is the timeless fiat of creation uttered from the foundation of the world, reconsecrating the soul, who has pledged to renew in service his vow taken at the inner levels to do the will of God. Therefore, when man's right to function as a son of God is restored, the moment of creativity is born, because he has once again recognized the power of God's love to forgive his sins and to set aside his karma until such a time as he has gained enough self-mastery to stand, face, and conquer his human creation. Now the bond of life within itself weds him to his highest purpose of alchemy, and that, mind you, without ever robbing him of his true identity. What shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world through the use of alchemy and lose his soul? We ask the students to understand that gaining control of the soul, of the energies composing one's identity pattern, is one of the most essential functions of alchemy. And it is this control that is gained through the surrender and through the humility. When the Christ entered the holy city, riding upon a colt, the foal of an ass, as we mentioned in our last lesson, his mien was one of utter humility, yet he was crowned by God and man with the highest honors. And so it is essential that we develop in students those same Christ-like qualities that will make them pillars in the temple of God that cannot be moved by human emotion, no matter what their guise, criticism, condemnation, judgment, self-pity, gossip, treachery, tyranny, or human deceit. The alchemist must be oblivious to all human conduct, not yet unaware of worldly thought, to the point where he plays the fop, F-O-P. To him, the fulfillment of the fiat, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, is the order of every day. Wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Being wise as a serpent means that you're basically participating in creation by actually creating. And this is what we need to do, is get together as a group and create, calm the storm, peace, and just calm these energies down. It's really important we do this because they are coming. But we are concerned with this news of mission, and the mission is freedom for all. If we would have freedom be the joy of all, then we must give freedom to all. For then none can exclude freedom from us. It is therefore to the passions of the freedom that our experiments in alchemy must be dedicated. We must rise to emotional control, for when God said, "Take dominion over the earth," he meant individual dominion over one's own energy, one's consciousness, and for one's 4 lower bodies. Collective dominion comes about when the contributing spirit of a group, a nation, a planet, recognizing all that it has received from life, joyously offers itself and all that it has received to the great spirit of life. At that point, man, the individual, and man, the collective unit, ponder the enrichment of the real self and the true mystical identity of the group through the increase of individual talents. So I said all of our different ways is the greatest gift of this process, is all of us coming together with all of our different aspects of God and expressing them all different ways. Those individual talents, these gifts of God, when multiplied, are like stars in the firmament of being that glow in the grand design of universal destiny. Wow. When man becomes one with God, he realizes that he truly is God. This is not blasphemy, but the fruit of total surrender. The return gift of life's own identity, as God gives himself to his Son, is far greater than the token of sacrifice of mortality left on the altar by the beloved Son. Nevertheless, it is the typical of the deity to be the great giver, and thus to precipitate the highest alchemical manifestation, the prism of the Christ consciousness. This must be, and always is, the reward for the relinquishment of human error and the full realization of the divine life in every man. All nature then trembles within the cup of the Christ mind. The heart of the Christ is brimming with the creative essence, which pours out the unifying experience that identifies him with life, him with the alchemist, and the alchemist with him. Who can hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain? Who can aid in all the holy mountain of God? Why, every atom, every electron is a rushing unto God. And a cloud received him out of their sight, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. The second coming of Christ is antedated by the fulfillment of the prophecy. One shall be taken and the other left. For when one is taken and the other is left, it denotes that the world lieth yet in wickedness, and that only the few have accepted the kingdom. But when the second coming of Christ comes to quicken the world, it will be because the nature of the divine has become understood as a priceless gift of freedom to every man. When this miracle of Christ's love is produced in the world, it will be because of the students of alchemy, whether known by that name or any other. Soul Tribe, Rainbow Warriors, Star Seeds, Ascension Seekers, Freedom Lovers, all of you. The list goes on and on. Whether in churches or out of churches, in fact, whether in the body or out of the body, they are expressing universally the radiance of Christ's design. Imbued with the fires of the Holy Spirit, their minds will then become a cosmic reactor, a central furnace of universal idea for freedom and for breaking of the chains of bondage that have recalcitrant humanity have forged. Now we reveal in his 8th lesson what all alchemy can mean to a decaying world, what it can mean to slaves in bondage to the senses, what it can mean to the self surrounded by confusion and chaos as it becomes an ordered, purposeful exhibit of universal grace expressing through the force field of the individual identity of man. Do you see now why El More or El Moria and Mother Mary and all of the ascended masters are offering their energies freely for the good of humanity? Do you see why the creative cloud invoked by us is literally an individualized cloud of witness by day and a pillar of fire by night? It enables man to understand that the crucible of identity, while it may at first be nothing but an experimental test tube, can become a radiant altar of reality. Faithfully, I am Saint Germain. So, chapter 9 is anxiety and the anxiety syndrome. For this lesson, we will permit the students to experiment with and develop proficiency in the creation of the cloud. While we will go ahead for a moment to discuss one of the major deterrents of successful alchemy, I refer to an anxiety and the anxiety syndrome. Strange as it may seem, most negative manifestations stem from anxiety, including the awful sin of masochism, since it is generally acknowledged that humanity have a desire to be happy and that they have a right to pursue happiness. We ask this question: would it not be wise for people in all walks of life to work towards the healing of those conditions which they bring upon themselves through their unfruitful anxieties? We avow that there are lawful concerns and that men and women should make reasonable provision for their future and for the eventualities which they know from personal experience may arise. But it is so unnecessary for them to become apprehensive about life in general, or even life specifically, to the point where their apprehensions unbalance their thinking, their emotions, and their entire psyche. Anxiety is the great warp of life. It warps perspective without producing any perceptible benefit whatsoever. Anxiety is the cause of people's tendency to hoard the goods of this world. Like frantic squirrels, they pile up their wintry supply of nuts. They accumulate an oversupply of every imaginable item. They deprive themselves of happiness by their unwarranted concerns, their unnecessary and time-consuming preparations for every eventuality. I know lots of people like this. Just as we do not expect that the student will cease to be providential, so we do not expect that they will become unduly involved in anticipating a doomsday that never arrives. Anxiety is a system of insecurity. It stems from man's incorrect concept of himself and from his lack of perspective. Many people feel unfulfilled, unloved, unwanted, and they are not sure of just what they should be doing with their lives. Their uncertainties, under adverse conditions, are easily turned into mental and emotional states of depression bordering on extreme self-deprecation. Considering these facts and bearing fully in the mind the power of creative energy, we have decided that before going more deeply into our study of alchemy, we shall advocate for all of our students an utter mental, emotional, and even physical catharsis. We shall achieve thereby a purification of the consciousness and being of man, an emptying, if you will, of unsustainable conditions, so that our alchemical creation may take place under the most sterile and clinical conditions possible. You see, it is so easy for a negative ingredient to creep into our formula that we must make and take every possible precaution before we begin our experiment, without first purging ourselves of all undesirable qualities. We would find ourselves with the best of motives amplifying our negatives instead of our positives as we proceed to employ the wondrous power of alchemy. This is one of the problems that arise among those who follow some of the so-called mystery schools, where the ego is catered to at the personal level, instead of being disciplined at the impersonal level. As these students develop soul power, it is inevitable that they amplify their negative momentums along with the great positive qualities which they seek to manifest. For whatever is in their world, when they are brought into the direct contact with the sacred fire, must expand, even as their total consciousness expands. In some cases, the negatives completely cancel out the positives, and in many times, because of earthly affinities and the additional boost of power that comes about as a result of experimentation, it will make a magnet out of their negatives, even when they are completely involved in the divine search. Thus, their own negative momentums, hidden in the recesses of their subconscious mind, draws to themselves more of that kind from their thoughts and their feelings of others. This phenomena is often the underlying cause of disharmony in religious groups. Now we earnestly desire to have the body of God upon the earth forewarned about these conditions. For unless the deterrent forces which are embedded in the psyche of man are brought under the power of divine grace and emptied of their content, of the misqualified energies which sustain their forms, they will appear as haunting specters waiting to devour the offspring of all benign activities and to literally turn man's light into darkness. Wow, that's powerful. We would do the opposite. We would create in the lives of the would-be alchemist the transmutative effects that would enable them, through awareness and through dedication to the Christ spirit of living harmony, to manifest all good things under divine control. Thus shall divine grace fill the temple of the mind and the heart of the alchemist, and make him truly a wonder worker for God. How many times have we seen concern for his fellow man take shape in the consciousness of the student as he gazes upon a world of conditions or upon the problems of his own family? He is almost obsessed with the desire to produce the miracle of saving grace for his loved ones, as well as for those who are in need in the world around him. So strong does this desire become that his brotherly love is many times the central motivation behind his search for greater spiritual and self-realization. Ours is not to discourage those who would love to serve, but to help them realize their objectives in peace and in honor. Therefore, consider the lilies of the field. Consider the lilies of the field. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you that even Solomon, in all of his glory, was not arrayed like one of these. The care of God for the birds of the air, the great abundance manifest in nature, and in the lilies of the field, show the supreme value that God places upon each of his children. Let us look to him then to teach us how to meet the needs of our brethren here below. Anxiety stems from a lack of faith in the ultimate purposes of life. The hard experiences that have come to many in childhood and in later years, creating stresses and strains and producing the fruit of bitterness, have prevented their development of that refined spirit which would enable them to shed their anxieties. In reality, the lessons Jesus taught on the Father's watchful care for man and nature should give all the understanding that we will heal their insecurity, their anxiety, their personal pain, involving the mind and self. This healing is brought about through the overpowering radiance of God's loving concern for every man. I urge you, therefore, that all students take into account the tender care and consideration of the universe manifest in the wondrous workings of the physical body when it is not interfered with by human pollutants. And I urge you that they then make an attempt throughout the coming days to heal the breach caused by their sense of separation. The separation of the individual from his true identity and hence from the Eternal One. In him you live and move and have your being. Without him you have neither life nor identity. Ask yourself the question, is it wise for you to pollute the divine identity by the intrusions of self-will and self-indulgence? Ask yourself this question, have you really given the Father a chance? Or has yours been an ongoing, off again, on again, facilitating attempt to realize God? There is nothing complex about the origins of the soul and its everlasting communion with Him. I'll say that one more time. There is nothing complex about the origin of the soul and its everlasting communion with Him. To become as a little child, then, as we shall see in our next lesson, is to prepare the way for the greatest manifestation of alchemy. Now, alchemy is not witchcraft. It is not variance. It is the exercise of a stable, God-intended control over nature, and it involves far more than men imagine. Through alchemy, the shedding of your anxieties can be accomplished, but first you must build a mountain of faith to counteract the negative thoughts of the world, which are primarily responsible for man's failures. How is this so? Each time individuals have a failure and lament it, each time they have a problem and sorrow over it, rather than commit it unto the Father, each time an individual resents their problems and sees them not as the return of karma or as a test, but as an act of a deity whom they defy, they are building up in their own worlds frustration, resentment, anxiety, and confusion. And these momentums draw to their doorsteps the negative conditions of the outside world. If ever there was a secondary enemy to anxiety, it is confusion. This too can and should be healed by the fires of the Christ mind. For we know that the Christ mind is calm yet capable. It is of focus, and it focuses the fiery energies of the Creator to overthrow evil, both in the self and in the society. But let us make it clear that this is a fire whose burning is controlled by the mind. It can be slow or fast. It can leap like a young deer and take its freedom, its dominion, its God control, or it can stand in midair like hieroglyphs of living flame and say to all that would hinder the alchemical manifestation, pass no further. I literally just saw Dumbledore. No. The Grey Wizard. Thou shalt not pass. Wow, I literally just had the image go through my mind. So, interesting. So it is God control, or it can stand in mid-air like hieroglyphs of living flame and say to all that would hinder the alchemical manifestation, pass no further. I urge you to consider then the negative thought pools of the world with a view to disengaging your energies and your activities from involvement with the misqualified energies contained therein. And I also would urge you to make your God determination that you are going to clean your consciousness inside and out of all residual substance which is there as a result of your contact with the cesspools of human behavior and consciousness. Anxiety must go. It must be replaced with faith and solemn confidence in the outworkings of the divine plan. This certain knowing, I say, is a happy state when you begin to understand fully what I mean. You will see that the developing of this confidence in the real is one of the greatest ways in which all deterrence to successful alchemy can be vanquished. In fact, all deterrence to abundant living can be knocked down as you cease to fight. As one that beateth the air, as St. Paul once said, you were born to win. And I say this to counter the lie that man was born to lose. And if you will make this statement, I am born to win, as an act of supreme faith, it will overcome the world's consciousness of failure, a deadly weight of sin, if there ever was one. It does not matter what problems you have faced, or even the most dire situations, will yield to the mighty force field of God potency that will be built up through your practice of spiritual alchemy. But why should man draw God's energies for alchemical experimentation and creation when his own world is still full of all the miscreations of the mass mind and the weeds of his garden that will choke out his efforts and destroy the good fruit as well? I do not mean that you should not continue your experiments with the cloud. I do mean that you should understand the duality of life and realize that anxieties must go. But in order for this to take place, you must make the conscious determination that it shall be done. And if you do, I promise you that your experiments will not only be purer and more successful, but also that they will produce happiness and the fruits thereof for yourself and the whole human race. Oh, we have so much, much more, for each master loves each servant son. For freedom to all I remain, Saint Germain. Okay, guys, I think we will finish there. But wow, is that some powerful information? I love it. I am born to win. I'm going to have to use that for part of my cloud manifestation. I'm putting that in my cloud. I hope you guys are building your cloud and working on your cloud. And if you need information on the cloud, I did a video right before this one. It was called Creating Your Cloud. And there's like 2 videos on it. And it's super simple. We're literally making a cloud. It isn't that so funny? Because the second coming, Jesus comes in the cloud. We're going to make the cloud. So, I love you guys. And I hope you're enjoying this. And I'm so enjoying writing this with you. I love when I can be with you guys when I post videos, but I work a lot. So if I'm not there, that's why. It's because I'm at work. But I always love you guys to be able to talk to one another, even if I can't be there, because I know that you guys mean as much to each other as you mean to me. So share the love and open up the channels to communicate whenever and however we can. So I love you guys. Have a great day or night. We need to start working on some powerful manifestation. And I like the I am born to win. I love that. I am born to win. That's a great thing to put into the energy over the upcoming energies that are coming with some collective focus on good things. I am born to win. That's a beautiful thing that we could put into the whole mix of things, because I was always told we came here to win. We came here to graduate. We came here to do something that had never been done before. And I think that was the second coming of Christ, actually integrating the higher frequencies of heaven in the physical avatar human being and literally acting more like what we really are. And only few people have ever mastered that level. But it's the most amazing thing. When enough of us do it and we start to vibrate at that resonance, the 100 monkey, it'll activate. And then the rest of the world will instantly raise in vibration because of the work that we have done. It's a gift. And then when we see that in the world, the feeling that comes back to you is beyond words. Beyond words. So when we really do work for the whole, the gifts that get brought back forth to you are from that wholeness, which is a whole different kind of love. And it's I think it's what most of our souls truly live for, is to experience the gift of seeing you make an effect to make something in somebody else's world better. And when you see the weight or the healing being lifted from them, and you see the joy, and you see the change it's made in their being, it is there's no greater gift. It's the weirdest thing. I think it's truly all of our biggest secret desire is just to be part of making